In the untouched wilderness of an ancient forest, where towering trees scrape the sky and rivers carve their way through rugged terrain, life is a constant battle for survival. Every inch of this untamed land is soaked in the stories of creatures who have come before. The forest is a place where life and death are intertwined, a world where the strong survive and the weak perish. It's a place where the wind whispers secrets through the leaves, and the rivers run deep with the weight of centuries. Yet within this wild, almost mystical expanse, there are moments that defy all understanding, moments that even nature herself seems to pause and take notice of. In this very forest, a mother bear was about to face a challenge unlike any other. She was a seasoned survivor, a creature carved by the unforgiving forces of nature. Her fur was thick and matted, her eyes sharp and alert, reflecting the wisdom that comes from years of living on the edge. She had weathered the bitter cold of the harshest winters, found her way through the densest of thickets, and evaded predators much larger than herself. Her strength and resilience had been her shield in a world that could be merciless. Yet as the wind howled softly outside her den, something extraordinary was about to unfold, and she was unaware that tonight her story would become something written into the very fabric of the wilderness. It was meant to be just another night. The cycle of life had gone on for as long as any living creature could remember. A bear giving birth was not an unusual event. This was, after all, the continuation of a species. The mother bear had prepared for this moment. She had built her den deep in the heart of the forest, insulated by thick layers of moss and earth, a sanctuary from the biting cold. Inside, everything was calm, still. The moonlight filtered through the gaps in the trees, casting soft beams on the forest floor. It was a moment suspended in time, an ordinary night that, unbeknownst to the world outside, was about to become anything but. As the first cries of a newborn cub echoed into the quiet night, a wave of emotion swept over the mother. Her heart raced, her instincts sharpened. The cub, tiny and fragile, let out a weak cry that resonated with the very core of her being. Its small body wriggled against her warm fur, seeking the safety and warmth only a mother could provide. In that moment, the bond between them was forged, a silent promise of protection, of love, and of survival. The mother's tongue, rough and tender, gently licked the cub clean, soothing it as if to say, "You are safe here, in my arms." But then something extraordinary happened. As the first cub rested against her chest, the mother's body stirred again. The labor wasn't over. The second cub arrived moments later. It was stronger, more robust than the first, with cries that echoed through the den, filled with the vigor of new life. The mother, though weary, didn't falter. She licked the second cub clean, her love and care pouring from every motion, from every stroke of her tongue. She nuzzled it close, pulling both cubs together, forming a small, warm cluster of life against her body. Her heart, though tired, was full of a love so powerful, so primal, that nothing in the forest could have threatened it. Yet as she settled the second cub into the warmth of her fur, the mother's body gave a final, powerful push. The third cub entered the world, smaller than the other two, but no less precious. Its cries were faint but filled with a will to survive. The mother, despite the fatigue that weighed heavily on her, turned her attention to the new arrival, licking it gently and guiding it toward the warmth of her chest. The three cubs, tiny and vulnerable, were nestled close, each one seeking the safety of their mother's body. The moonlight outside shone brightly now, casting soft shadows across the den, as the mother bear settled into the deep, instinctual rhythm of caring for her young. She breathed deeply, her body aching with the effort of giving birth, but her heart was light. Her cubs, though small and fragile, had been born into a world of possibilities. They were her legacy, her future. And yet, as the mother bear lay in the dim light, her body curled protectively around her cubs, a deep and primal knowing lingered in the air. This was only the beginning. In the animal kingdom, miracles are often subtle, hidden beneath the surface of what seems like the ordinary. We as humans often look for dramatic, grand gestures to define a miracle. But in the wild, a miracle can be as simple as a new life entering the world. A life that will grow, struggle, and thrive against all odds. For bears, giving birth in the safety of their dens during the cold winter months is one of nature's quiet marvels. It is a moment that signifies the continuation of a species, an essential part of the wild cycle. Typically, a healthy bear gives birth to 1 to 3 cubs. These cubs, though born fragile and helpless, are imbued with the power of their mother's instincts and the strength of the land that birthed them. They are meant to grow strong, to face the challenges of the wilderness, and to one day become parents themselves. On rare occasions, a particularly robust mother might give birth to 4 cubs, but this is an anomaly. Nature's way of showing her generosity in a world that so often demands sacrifice. But tonight, as the mother bear rested in her den, a shift had occurred. She had defied the rules, the expected rhythms of the wild. 3 cubs had been born, each one different yet equally precious. The first cub, small and fragile, was the one who had arrived first, a symbol of new beginnings, delicate and soft. The second cub, strong and filled with energy, seemed destined for greatness. And the third, the smallest, weaker than the others but no less loved, embodied the will to survive despite the odds stacked against it. These cubs, each born into the world with their own struggles, were destined for a journey unlike any other. But this was only the beginning. The mother bear, though tired, did not rest easy. She knew what awaited her in the days to come. The forest outside was harsh, unforgiving. The cold winter winds would blow fiercely, and food would be scarce. Her cubs, fragile and vulnerable, would need her strength and protection to survive. But there was more to this story than simple survival. There was a magic in the air, a sense that this family of bears was about to become part of a tale that would echo through the wilderness for years to come. As the mother's body lay nestled against her cubs, her breath slow and steady, the moonlight cast an almost otherworldly glow over the den. Outside, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The world was watching, waiting. The birth of these cubs was no ordinary event. It was a miracle, a testament to the strength and resilience of nature itself. And as the mother closed her eyes, her body heavy with exhaustion, yet full of love, she knew that this was only the beginning. The journey of her cubs was just starting, and already it was a journey that would leave an indelible mark on the heart of the wilderness. 4 cubs were born, their tiny, fragile cries piercing the quiet air of the den. For most bears, this would mark the end of a long and grueling labor. The mother bear, though exhausted from the intense effort, would typically rest now, her work complete. But this was no ordinary birth. This was a birth that seemed to defy all logic and expectation. As the first cubs squirmed against her, their cries echoing in the stillness, the mother paused, her breath ragged, her body trembling with the aftermath of each contraction. Her instinct was to rest, but nature had other plans. With a deep, strained breath, she pushed again. The second cub arrived quickly, followed by a third, each one more distinct, more precious than the last. The mother, though drained, licked each one clean, nudging them closer into the warmth of her body. But when the third cub settled against her chest, it became clear. The birth was not finished. With every ounce of energy she could muster, the mother prepared for another push. The pain, though immense, was nothing compared to the drive to see her cubs survive. And so, with sheer willpower, she continued. The fourth cub slipped into the world. Its tiny body, still slick with birth fluids, was immediately attended to by the mother. Yet as the cub's cries filled the den, there was no sense of completion. The mother was not done. Outside, the forest stood still, its usual sounds of rustling leaves and chirping birds hushed, as though the entire world had paused in disbelief at what was unfolding inside that den. The mother bear, undeterred by her fatigue, gave another heaving push. A fifth cub arrived, weak but alive, its tiny form nestling in the safety of her fur. And then a sixth cub followed, its cries growing louder as it sought its mother's warmth. It was not just a miracle anymore, it was becoming a phenomenon. The forest outside remained silent. The stars above twinkled like distant witnesses to this once-in-a-lifetime event, casting their silver glow through the dense canopy above the den. Within, the mother pushed again, exhausted but determined. With every new life that entered the world, the bond between them grew stronger. Each cub that arrived seemed like a gift, fragile, beautiful, and destined to fight for survival. By the time the seventh cub arrived, wildlife experts monitoring the bear's den through remote cameras were no longer just intrigued. They were in awe. 7 cubs, more than double the usual number a bear could give birth to. A single mother bear had somehow managed to bring 7 cubs into the world, a feat so rare it had only been speculated in the wildest corners of science. But the miracle didn't stop there. The 8th cub came into the world, its body slick and soft, its cries rising in the air like a symbol of life itself. No one watching could believe what they were seeing. The team of scientists and veterinarians who had gathered in awe around their monitors were left speechless. This was beyond the realm of possibility, but the events that followed proved even more extraordinary. With another deep, powerful push, the 9th cub arrived, wriggling into the safety of its mother's embrace. And as the final cub was delivered, a 10th cub, a tiny life struggling to find its place among its siblings, entered the world. The mother bear, though worn and fatigued, instinctively licked it clean, pulling it into the warmth of her fur as if to say, "You are not alone." 10 cubs, more than any bear had ever been known to give birth to. The odds of such an event happening were beyond comprehension. Yet here they were, 10 tiny souls fighting for survival, born into a world that was vast and unforgiving. And in that moment it was clear, this was no ordinary night. This was a phenomenon, one that would forever change the way we understood the power and mysteries of the natural world. As news of the unprecedented birth spread like wildfire among the scientific community, experts from all over the world were stunned. It was the talk of the year, a discovery that would rewrite textbooks and challenge everything we thought we knew about wildlife and reproduction. Within hours, a team of researchers and veterinarians were mobilized to investigate this phenomenon. At the forefront of this team was Dr. James Carter, a renowned wildlife veterinarian with over 2 decades of experience working with animals in the wild. Dr. Carter had seen it all. He had witnessed the birth of countless animals, deer, wolves, bison, and even mountain lions. He had helped deliver cubs, pups, and calves in the most remote and dangerous parts of the world. But nothing had prepared him for what was about to unfold. Dr. Carter had heard the reports. 10 cubs, a feat of nature so rare it was almost unthinkable. And yet, as he made his way through the dense forest toward the mother bear's den, he felt a mixture of disbelief and anticipation. His mind raced with questions. Was this an anomaly, a fluke of nature, or was there something deeper at play? When Dr. Carter arrived at the den, he approached cautiously, making sure not to disturb the mother bear. He knew the delicate balance of nature and understood how easily a disturbance could cause the mother to abandon her young. Through his binoculars, Dr. Carter scanned the den from a distance. He could see the mother bear, her large form curled protectively around the tiny cubs. They were all there, 10 tiny bundles of fur, each one huddled close for warmth, their small bodies instinctively seeking the safety of their mother. The air was thick with the scent of newborn life. The mother licked her cubs clean, her tongue moving slowly but methodically, making sure each one was tended to. Dr. Carter watched, awestruck. This was something truly remarkable. But then something caught his eye. Among the 10 cubs, one stood out. A tiny golden-furred cub nestled among its siblings. Dr. Carter's heart skipped a beat. The cub was unlike the others. Its fur was a striking shade of golden brown, almost shimmering in the low light of the den. It was so small, so delicate, and yet it seemed to radiate a quiet strength. The cub's golden coat glowed softly against the brown and black of its siblings, as if nature itself had painted this one cub as something special. Dr. Carter leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the golden cub. He knew this was something rare, something beyond anything he had ever encountered. The sight of the cub was a marvel, an enigma that would haunt his thoughts for years to come. How could this happen? What did it mean for the mother bear and for her cubs? What kind of miracle had brought this tiny golden cub into the world? He took a deep breath, knowing that this moment would change the course of his career. This was no longer just a story about the survival of a bear family. It was a story that would rewrite the boundaries of science itself. The golden cub was unlike any other. It wasn't just its fur that set it apart, but the way it shimmered softly in the dim light of the den. Its coat was a soft golden hue, a rare genetic variation that made it a spirit bear, a creature so rare and elusive it was nearly considered mythical. The mother's instincts guided her gently around the cubs, her large, powerful body shielding them from the cold air that crept into the den. But the golden cub stood out among the others. Its fur was a bright beacon against the backdrop of darkened furs, a marvel in nature's design. Spirit bears, also known as Kermode bears, are a genetic rarity found only in certain parts of the world, mostly in the temperate rainforests of British Columbia, Canada. They are not an entirely separate species, but rather a subspecies of the black bear with a unique genetic twist. Spirit bears are incredibly rare. Only 1 in 10 bears born in this region may inherit the gene for this unusual fur color. The gene responsible for their golden or white fur is recessive, meaning both parents must carry the gene for it to be passed on to their offspring. Dr. James Carter, who had seen his fair share of wildlife births, couldn't believe what he was seeing. In all his years of studying and working with animals, he had never encountered anything like this. A litter of 10 cubs was already an extraordinary event, but to find a spirit bear among them was something beyond even his vast experience. "By all accounts, this is a miracle within a miracle," Dr. Carter murmured, his voice tinged with awe. His eyes remained fixed on the golden cub, watching as it nuzzled closer to its siblings, seeking warmth. It was difficult to fathom that such a rare creature was part of a litter so large and so unexpected. In that moment, the spirit bear cub became more than just an oddity. It became a symbol. It represented the unyielding force of nature, the unpredictable beauty of the wilderness, and the astonishing capacity of life to surprise even the most seasoned experts. It was a reminder that nature, in all its complexity, still held mysteries that humans could scarcely comprehend. The golden cub was fragile, delicate, and yet it radiated an energy that suggested it had been sent into the world for a purpose. It was in many ways a metaphor for hope itself, rare, precious, and imbued with an undeniable strength. In the shadow of such an extraordinary birth, the cub was a symbol of the resilience of life, and for those who witnessed its emergence, it would serve as a reminder of just how much there was still to learn about the natural world. While the birth of 10 cubs was extraordinary, it was not without its challenges. Nature is a harsh and unforgiving force, and the odds stacked against these cubs were formidable. A mother bear typically nurses and cares for just 2 or 3 cubs at a time. With 10 cubs, the task of keeping them all alive was a monumental challenge. It would test not only the mother's strength, but also her ability to forage, protect, and care for them. The workload was unimaginable. The mother bear, already exhausted from the grueling labor, now faced the immense responsibility of feeding and protecting her 10 tiny cubs. As the den settled into a calm rhythm of nursing and resting, her mind was already focused on survival. She needed to venture out into the wilderness, searching for food to nourish herself and her young. In the cold, barren months of winter, food was scarce, and her task would require all her skills and instincts. Food, however, would soon become a critical factor. Bears, particularly mothers with cubs, need a constant supply of nutrition to sustain their energy. But with 10 cubs to feed, the mother's efforts would need to be twice as effective. She would have to forage tirelessly, searching for berries, fish, and small mammals. Each meal she brought back would be crucial, sustaining her own strength and, more importantly, providing nourishment for her cubs, who depended on her every move. Her resilience would be tested as she battled the harsh elements and the scarcity of resources. Winter was a brutal time for bears, and she would need to tap into every ounce of her instincts, every lesson she had learned in her years of survival. Foraging for food would not only be physically demanding, but also mentally exhausting. She would need to track prey across vast distances, dodge the dangers of the wilderness, and make sure her cubs were safe from the ever-present threats lurking in the shadows. For the golden cub, the challenges of survival would be even greater. While the cub was a symbol of hope, Its rare golden fur made it more vulnerable to predators. The bright color, unlike the dark, camouflaged coats of its siblings, made it stand out. Whether from an eagle soaring above or a hungry wolf prowling the forest floor, the golden cub would be at a much higher risk of being spotted. In a world where every moment could be a fight for survival, standing out in such a stark way could prove to be a curse as much as it was a blessing. Yet, the mother bear's fierce dedication to her cubs would give them a fighting chance. Her maternal instincts ran deep, guiding her as she cared for her young, shielding them from the dangers of the world around them. She kept them close, never straying too far from the safety of her den or her protective embrace. The golden cub, despite its vulnerability, would be kept safe as long as the mother's strength held out. The bond between mother and cub was unbreakable, and in the face of overwhelming odds, it would be their greatest weapon. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the cubs continued to grow stronger. The 10 of them, now more robust, became a force of nature themselves, banding together in a world that was unforgiving and filled with threats. The mother, her body already bearing the toll of caring for so many, never stopped. She carried the burden of her cubs' survival with unwavering determination, never once faltering in her quest to give them the life they deserved. But survival in the wilderness was never certain, and the golden cub would face challenges unlike those of its siblings. It would have to navigate the dangers of the wild with the same strength and willpower as its mother, relying on instincts and the protection of its family. The mother bear's fierce love and devotion would be the golden cub's greatest asset, and it would be this unbreakable bond that would carry them through the trials of nature. The bond between the mother bear and her cubs was unshakable. In the wild, where danger lurked at every corner, survival depended on more than just physical strength. It required an unbreakable connection, one rooted in love and devotion. The mother bear, though exhausted from the relentless demands of raising 10 cubs, never let her guard down. Her instincts remained sharp, her focus unwavering. Despite the sleepless nights and the constant challenge of finding food, she was always there, ready to protect her young from whatever threats the wilderness might throw their way. Each day the cubs grew stronger, their tiny legs now beginning to take their first wobbly steps. It was a miraculous sight, the tiny creatures, their eyes still clouded with the haze of infancy, trying to mimic their mother's every move. The mother bear was patient, guiding them through the motions, teaching them how to forage, how to find berries, how to catch fish, and how to avoid danger. Every lesson was a battle for survival, every step forward a victory. But she was not just teaching them how to survive, she was teaching them how to live. The cubs watched her with wide eyes, sensing her every move, absorbing the lessons she imparted. They followed her from the den to the forest, learning how to navigate the harsh world that lay outside their safe haven. They would grow up faster than any cub should, their fates intertwined with the mother's relentless devotion. In the wilderness, survival is not guaranteed. Even with the love and care of a mother, every step is fraught with peril. The mother bear knew this better than anyone, but her love for her cubs gave her the strength to push forward, to continue providing, to keep fighting. Her instincts told her that this family, this remarkable litter of 10 cubs, could survive if she gave them everything she had. And so she did. Her every action was a reflection of the bond she shared with them. She kept them close, sheltering them from the cold winds, guiding them through the wilderness with her knowledge of the land. Her heart beat not just for herself, but for her cubs, and in return, the cubs relied on her completely. She was their world, the protector, the teacher, the unwavering anchor in a world that could be unpredictable and harsh. Every step they took, every move they made, was a testament to the power of this unbreakable bond. The mother bear had given them life, and now she was showing them how to live it. Her strength, both physical and emotional, was what would keep them alive. And it was this bond, this unyielding love, that would carry them through the darkest days of winter and into the bright promise of the future. For Dr. Carter, it wasn't just the rarity of the event that moved him. It was the profound sense of connection to something far greater than himself. The cubs, the mother, and the forest around them all seemed to embody the very essence of life itself. Fragile, fleeting, yet unbelievably powerful in its persistence. In that moment, Dr. Carter realized that he was witnessing more than just a scientific anomaly. He was witnessing the heart of nature, beating in rhythm with the pulse of the earth itself. As a word of the mother bear and her 10 cubs spread, it didn't take long for the story to capture the hearts of conservationists, wildlife experts, and nature lovers around the world. What began as a rare, almost unbelievable event had now evolved into something much more significant, a symbol of hope and resilience in an age where many species were facing extinction. The golden cub, especially, became a beacon for the future. It represented the fragility of life, but also its immense potential for survival. In a world where habitat destruction, climate change, and human encroachment were threatening the lives of countless species, the birth of these cubs was a powerful reminder that life still found a way to endure. The golden cub wasn't just a rare genetic mutation. It was a symbol of nature's ability to defy the odds, to adapt, and to persist in the face of adversity. This story quickly became a rallying cry for conservation efforts, urging people to do more to protect the habitats that these magnificent creatures relied on. For the first time in a long while, the attention wasn't focused on the threats facing these animals. It was focused on the hope that they represented. The golden cub, with its shimmering fur, became the face of a movement to safeguard the future of bears, their ecosystems, and all the creatures that called the wilderness home. As the months passed, the cubs grew stronger under their mother's watchful eye. The golden cub, once a symbol of vulnerability, began to thrive. It was no longer just a rare anomaly. It was a testament to the power of conservation and the importance of protecting the natural world. And in the years to come, it would serve as a living example of what could be achieved when humans work together to preserve the delicate balance of nature. As the seasons changed, the 10 cubs grew more confident, more capable. Their once fragile bodies had become stronger, their movements more deliberate. The golden cub, once an outlier, had blossomed into a resilient young bear, holding its own among its siblings. It had not only survived but thrived, much like the rest of its family. Together, this extraordinary family had navigated the harsh realities of the wild, overcoming obstacles that would have defeated lesser animals. But they had succeeded, thanks to the fierce determination of the mother and the unbreakable bond she shared with her cubs. And so, the story of the mother bear and her 10 cubs lives on, etched into the hearts of those who witnessed it. It is a tale of courage, devotion, and love, a testament to the enduring magic of the natural world. Their story serves as a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the wilderness, life finds a way to endure. The cubs, now strong and free, will continue to carry their mother's legacy with them, as will the golden cub, a symbol of nature's unyielding spirit and the hope that we all carry within us.